One of the things that I think a lot of people take for granted is how important storytelling is for us as humans. It is what brought us together. It is what guaranteed our survival.
Brian Eisenberg in the house.
So I'm not sure if you can hear me or see me. If you can, Fernando, just text me. Let me know that you can see my screen properly, because I have no idea, and I couldn't hear you at all. So I don't know what happened. All of a sudden I was hearing you backstage, and then as soon as you went live, I couldn't hear a single thing. So just let me know before we move on. Okay. Well, hopefully you're seeing my screen. Thank you for having me here today. I'm really excited to share with you just the changes of storytelling, especially in today's AI world. One of the things that I think a lot of people take for granted is how important storytelling is for us as humans. It is what brought us together. It is what guaranteed our survival. You know, back in even the caveman days, when we, come around the fire and start sharing, this is where food is, don't eat these berries, watch out for the jaguar over the cliff. All of those things help ensure our survival. And we're the only species who can share stories. And unfortunately, what we're seeing in an AI world is everybody telling you, okay, you got to do storytelling. And they throw on all of these storytelling kind of techniques, but they really don't focus in on the important parts of what actually helps sell from a story. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because it's not just about, sprinkling in some storytelling techniques, because doing that is the same thing as putting lipstick on a pig, right? You still have a pig. It could be a pretty pig, but it's still a pig. The biggest challenge we have in today's world is that there's so much noise going on that the only way to get through is with some of this storytelling. And here's the crazy part. When I was much younger, in my 20s and 30s, there were studies out there that said that the average American would hear something around 500 marketing messages a day. About 20 years ago, when social media just started becoming available, now all of a sudden we went ahead and we started getting close to 5,000 messages a day. But what's happened in just the last couple of years with TikTok and Reels and this infinite scroll is that we're getting over 15,000 messages a day. And so how do you create a message? How do you tell a story that gets through the noise, that sticks with people, and has an impact to your brand and in terms of your revenue? So that's what we're going to talk about. Because when I first started in the online marketing industry, my brother and I here, back almost 30 years ago, it was a much different place. Some of you may remember this website. This is what it looked like when we first started in the industry. It's evolved quite a bit since then. And what's interesting is back then we weren't big fans of Amazon. We saw some of the things that they were doing, but we're like, okay, will they ever succeed? But a lot of it had to do with the story that Jeff Bezos told his team, but we're going to get into that in a moment. The thing is, that was a time where it's so easy just to put out content, put out stories, and get seen. And we were very fortunate in the time that we were really heavily involved that we published millions of words online. We wrote a couple of New York Times bestsellers, as Fernando alluded to. A number of our books, really defined the industry. We coined the term conversion rate optimization and bounce rate, all these words for an industry that didn't exist. Only because my brother and I were super passionate about one key thing, is really understanding why people do the things they do, and specifically online. One of my claims to fame, and you might want to remember this later, is that Seth Godin called my book cover God awful, and that helped turn that into a New York Times bestseller. And he said, drop everything you're doing and go read this book. But that was many, 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 many years ago now. Our processes for conversion optimization changed as we saw the industry changing. It wasn't about, changing buttons and just changing a few words here and there. Of course, that mattered. But I've never come to a website where someone looked at the button and said, oh, you know what, that button color is chartreuse and it's not green or aqua, so I can't buy it. I've seen the worst and the ugliest websites convert people. I've seen, businesses that tell great stories sell people. But one of the things I know for sure, and I've seen over and over again, is that there is no chance to keep increasing your sales if you've got a broken story. And if a broken story is not going to be fixed by an AI, and it could only be fixed by human connection. And so one of the examples of a broken story is I love to tell this story that Paul Jasinski kind of alludes to in his testimonial for our book Buyer Legends, where we explain our narrative process for how to tell stories within a business. Is real simple. At Google, all the engineers believed that the average consumer, you should never underestimate their intelligence. They're super intelligent people. Yet the head of marketing that was just, sat on top of a poll in the org chart, he liked to show this example. In his office, he had a letter with a CD and a money order from a gentleman who wanted to figure out how to get his ads up on Google. And as you can see, those are two different stories, two different narratives, and they don't align. And it wasn't until we were able to get both sides of the organization to understand those stories that we helped them get a 10-digit optimization, because we're able to explain the stories better. And so this is the fundamental thing about storytelling, that you have to understand that humans are so equipped to detect whenever something's just slightly off. And we have that BS meter that's highly attuned. And so if our story, our systems, our actions, and our values aren't aligned, we don't come off authentic. And that's what we see a lot with the AI slop today. It's inauthentic because it isn't aligned with ourselves. And so we're going to talk about that, because what I see in most businesses is what I refer to as the very common 6 blind men and the elephant problem, right? If you've ever heard the fable, there's this one gentleman who touches the side of the elephant and he says, oh, this is like a wall. Another elephant touches, the tail of the elephant and he says, oh, this is like a snake. Another gentleman touches the trunk and he says, this is like a rope. Another one touches the ear and he says it's like a fan. The other one touches the knee and talks like a tree trunk. And if you think about it, every part of an organization, unfortunately, sometimes has a different reality of the way they view the customer, of the way they view the market, of the way they view their business. And it's just a curse of knowledge. It's not necessarily being blind, but oftentimes we are blind to other realities. In fact, this study is a great example of just how blind most organizations are. There was a study done by Bain where they interviewed executives and they asked them, hey, how customer-centric are you? Do you believe you provided a better customer experience? And they asked over 370 businesses, and 80% of them, of these executives, believed that they provided a superior customer experience compared to their competitors. But then they went ahead and they asked the customers of those same companies that those executives were from. And wouldn't you know it, only 8% of those customers agreed that they were customer-centric. So someone is telling the wrong story here. And that delivery gap, right, between the story, the systems and actions, and the customer experience is broken. And when that happens, it costs you sales, because your actions express your priorities. And all we're trying to do in conversion rate optimization, all we're trying to do in sales and in marketing is get customers to take action. And all we're trying to do is get our staff to deliver actions as well. Now, a lot of people have gone ahead and they said, okay, we're going to start with why. You remember Simon Sinek's famous TED Talk, and he started talking about, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. But if you listen very closely to his TEDx talk, you'll see that it's not the why that he talks about over and over again, but it's the word beliefs. Beliefs are what drive our stories. And it's one of the most powerful stories that we can tell as a business. And what I found in my research is that there's 16 different story types. Now, I'm not going to be able to have time today to go through all 16 story types, but we're going to start on the two most foundational story types that build trust. And we're going to talk about my friend Ken Goodrich, who started Gettle, because we're going to talk about how he leveraged his origin story and his belief story to create a $100 million HVAC company. And if you're wondering why I picked a HVAC company, because is there any HVAC company that does things so much different than any other? Do they not just install, repair, serve it? Like, it's not that different, right? They're all pretty much boring businesses, but somehow his stories drove his business to create a $100 million empire, which he now sold. But let's talk about exactly what he did. But before I do that, I want to talk to you about the breadth of stories. So I mentioned the 16 story types. Nike is one of the world's best storytellers, and they've used all 16 story types, where a company like Adidas, who does not have quite the same market cap, has only focused in on 4 or 5. You don't need all 16, but certainly the more you have, the more powerful you become as an organization, because those stories do plant in people's heads. So let's go back to Ken Goodrich and his origin story. So that's his truck wrap that was designed by a guy named Dan Antonelli from Kick Charge Creative. And what you see there is a picture of young Ken holding a flashlight, because he talks about when he grew up about holding that flashlight for his dad on service calls. And he used that as part of the core basis of why he deserves to exist, why he's so passionate about doing things the right thing. But then he turned that into what he believes. And I'm going to play for you right now a very quick video, and I'm hoping the audio works perfectly for you guys, so you can hear a little bit about what Ken and Gettle believes. And then I'm going to show you how they turned that into their empire.
I'm Ken Goodrich, and I want you to know. And we believe it. Like about
So I want to point out a couple of the key things there, because we're going to talk about brandable chunks in a minute. But there are a few things that a lot of HVAC companies don't talk about: installing things level, plumb, and square. But the other one that was one of his firm beliefs from very early childhood, and his dad told him, that when you work on the air conditioner, every screw needs to be super tight so that there's no squeaks, rattles, and rolls, as they talk about it. Nothing should be vibrating, because any vibration could cause damage to the machine. But here's the most important part. No one cares what you believe until they can see the action you've taken from it. Let me repeat that. No one cares about what you believe until they can see the action that you've taken for it. And so when you think about it, if someone goes ahead and replaces the screws in your HVAC, this is what a typical HVAC looks like. Most of the screws are either silver or bronze. They don't stand out. And so the customer can't tell whether someone touched them or not. But as soon as Ken painted all his screws bright, shiny red, now the customer knows. Now also the technician knows which ones he has and hasn't changed. And it became very obvious to build their systems around replacing their screws. This is how simple innovation can be and how powerful it can be when it's built around your beliefs. And now it connects with your customers. So the first thing I always like to tell anybody is when you're creating your story, okay, you want to go ahead and I'm going to give you this exercise to go do is write 10, 12, 14, 16, whatever it is, sentences that can be observed by your clients. These are actions that you do that could begin with the words "we believe." What do you believe about your customers? What do you believe about the problem you solve? What do you believe the world needs more or less of? What belief do you hold that your competitors don't? What would you fight for even if it wasn't profitable? And then ask yourself, which of these are foundational beliefs and which of these are limiting beliefs? Because a lot of times we hold ourselves back by some of those limiting beliefs. But start putting these together, and that will be the basis for how you tell your story and create your specific niche, how you stand out in the community. Because what's happening with AI, this is the most important trend I've seen in 30 years, being early in an SEO and now watching AIO, right, or AEO, is that Jeff Bezos, Scott Cook, all these guys have been saying for years, right? Your brand is not what you say it is. It's what other people say about your brand when you're not in the room. And AI doesn't rank websites like Google does and give you a list of websites that can be gained by people playing around with relevance signals. What it's really doing is taking a much deeper understanding of what people are actually saying about you. It's using third-party sources, reviews, lists, Better Business Bureau, all of these different things to really try to understand what the customer is saying about you. And that's what's changing, what's going on. And so this is a classic example. I did a brand audit for a website recently for a company that does HVAC as well, same industry. And they actually use the words there, approach them with caution. How many of you would rather buy from Gettle or from someone that it's already saying approach them with caution? And so I'm going to give you a way to run your own brand audit later, but keep in mind, this is where your storytelling is going. If your story and your actions don't align with what your customers are seeing, what you think you're trying to get across, you're going to get caution messages, or you're just not even going to show up in the AIs. And so this is what happened to my good friend, Dr. Matt Delgado from LifeSpring Chiropractic. I've been mentoring Dr. Matt for the last 8 years. He's been voted Austin's best chiropractor this year. He's been voted 3 years prior, but it's been a few years since he re-won the award. And he started off as a traditional chiropractor, get on very early, on social media, sharing the early chiropractic videos on YouTube and on Instagram. And he grew a nationwide presence. People would watch him from all over the place just to see him pop and crack and make loud noises. Until he finally realized that that wasn't his end goal with doing chiropractic. You see, Dr. Matt had Graves' disease a couple of years after coming out of chiropractic school, an autoimmune disease that he ended up healing himself from. And part of his "we believes" is he talks about the human body's a living miracle. We are much more like plants than cars that need to be snapped and our oil changed every so often. And I was fortunate enough to be his friend and really learn a lot from him because I had a story that was broken personally. See, 20 years ago, I had gained well over 100 pounds. I was 277 pounds. And I worked really hard to lose 100 pounds. And I did that based on a story of trying to keep up with my kids. But you know what happens? Kids grow up, and that story no longer worked for me. It didn't align with my value. It didn't align with where my reality was today. And it wasn't changing the actions. Even though I was walking over 9,000 steps today, I was eating plant-based. I was eating minimally processed foods. My blood sugar shot up to 376. Okay. I had so much brain fog, pain, like all kinds of symptoms. But I believe, like he did, that it was all reversible, that I could heal myself. And within 4 months of aligning my actions and my values, it all repaired itself. And what happened is he realized that he needed to refocus the way he was talking to his customers. See, he's not the typical structural kind of chiropractor. You go in there for pain relief and get 2 days of relief, and then hopefully you come back in a couple more weeks and get another pop and crack. And as he started changing language, and as we helped craft how he would say these language, he realized he had the most powerful word of mouth. It's when people think of your brand and love your brand, even when you're not around. And so this happened within the same week. He got a text message from the Texas University's college basketball team head coaches when they were in their arena for the championship games, and they texted them. They said they found the nervous system of the arena. He was top of mind for them when they saw just a bunch of wires around. And then he's sitting and he's watching a bunch of videos of these athletes talk about how he cares for them, okay? And he's hearing the words that he shared with them. This is how you create a category. This is how we created what's called the Trior method, which is his own unique method that stands out across the world. This is how AIs, when you ask who is the best chiropractor in Austin, you show up immediately, and you show up around the best chiropractor in Austin, the Trior method, because the stories are aligning. It's showing up in the best of things. We're talking about the Trior method all over the place. Or when someone's looking for help with TMJ in Austin, and he comes up with one of 2 options, because unlike traditional search, again, that had infinite scroll of options, the AI is only going to give you a couple. And if you're just using the same language that everybody else is, you can't succeed. I learned early on in my career, this is something that Fernando knows I'm very passionate about. My mentor, Roy Williams, told us, he who controls the vocabulary controls the industry. And so one of the things that Dr. Matt has done is control the vocabulary around how he explains so simply the power of the nervous system and how to heal it. It's the system that connects all the systems and communicates with all the systems. If we let that heal first, all your other crazy symptoms will heal. And he gets amazing results. And why is this so important? Because even Google today is telling you, you have to build a brand. And brands are built, again, on your stories, on your beliefs, on your actions and systems, and that customer experience. So if you don't know how to put those together, you're going to have a very hard time as AI is taking over, because that SEO funnel is dying. It's not dead yet, but it's certainly dying. It's changing. And how did I realize how powerful this was for us? And only in the last few months that I realized that things have changed in terms of building your niche and getting your information across in a digitally connected world. So my wife and I also own a local home care agency here in Austin. And I had asked one of my friends, Darren Shaw, who's an expert at local SEO and Google Business Profile. I said, look, Darren, I want to go ahead and I want to update my address, but I don't want to get my account suspended or have to recertify. So what do I need to do? And he said, okay, here's what you do. You go ahead and you start updating your website, all your social media accounts, the chamber website, any other organizations, all the corporate website, all the things that you have, you update those. And then you sit and you wait until Google re-indexes them with the new address. And I waited and I waited and I waited weeks and weeks. Nothing changed. All of this showed my old address here, 551 South Interstate 35. Nothing was changing. So I went ahead and I asked my friend if I should write a press release about this for the AIs. And as soon as I sent out the press release, and I'll show you that in a moment, within minutes, all the AIs, ChatGPT, Claude, Google AI mode, Gemini, all of them had the new location, knew the old address, knew why we moved, the whole background, how we built a lab in the office. I told a different story through the press release, even if it didn't check my website. And so I put out the whole press release, ran it on Newsworthy.ai or NewsRamp. And the reason I did this is because my good friend Dave McInnes, who originally started PR Web and built the whole concept of news marketing directly to consumers, he's built a new press wire that is geared for today's AI world. Because every AI is going to go ahead, and anytime you put in any question into an AI, it's going to check the news, the Google News, and things like Reddit and stuff like that to get updated information about you. So one of the things I wanted to do to give everybody here who's part of the Strike Summit is a free press release just by going to this website, and I can send you the link later, or Fernando can send you a link later, but you can use that code, NW_buyer legends, and that will get you a free press release where you can go ahead and use it to tell your story. If you have more questions about how to do this, we certainly can talk about it. But Dave McInnes has plugged into a way that's helping me reshape how I tell my customer stories for the AI, because we will tell an interesting newsworthy item, and you should be newsworthy on a regular basis. And then I will fill it in with pieces of the story that the AI does not have clarity on their signals, so I can align these stories perfectly. And so here's a little homework for you. I don't care what your favorite AI is, you can try them all, but ask it real simply. Who is your brand? What makes them different from your competitors, people in your town who do this, whatever, however you want to phrase that. Ask it what products or service do they offer. I'm amazed at how often this seems to be a disconnect. I was just doing a brand audit for a company, and the Google Maps overview said that the most important thing about their business was their membership, but then you go to their website and you couldn't find anything about their membership program. Very bizarre. And then ask them, why would someone choose them? And you start seeing your story. And if you could start understanding where some of those pieces are broken, you could start making a plan to fix them. So first homework, right? I know there's a lot to do, but this is much like the same way you eat an elephant. You can't eat the elephant all at once. You eat an elephant one bite at a time, okay? And so go ahead and start this audit first. One of the other things I've done for all of you is on my website, there is a free toolbox of some of the little tools I use for telling stories. And you can grab that, the Elephant's Toolbox. And you can learn a lot more about the way we've been using these narrative techniques in very bite-sized chapters, only way you would eat an elephant, of course. And I think I swallow an elephant. Every chapter is only 250 to 400 words. And hopefully between all of that, I'll give you a big dump of what's been in my brain for the last 30 years. So you can go ahead out and dominate your niche. And I still can't, you're muted, Fernando. So maybe if you unmute.
Can you hear me right now?
Oh, I hear you now.
Okay, got it. I was trying to tell you about the audio. Listen, could you go back to the video of the Gottle thing?
Gettle?
Yeah, Gettle. And when you hit share, which option were you using to share? Share screen, slides, and PDFs. Which one were you using?
I was sharing my presentation.
So so go down to the share screen, go down to the share option, but were you sharing? So like in the share option, in the pop-up that you see right there when you click the share thing,
Yeah.
which were you using? Slides and PDFs?
I did share screen.
Share screen. Okay, got it. So share screen, were you using a Chrome tab, window, or entire screen?
Entire screen.
Okay. When you share entire screen, click on also share system audio. You have to turn that on.
It didn't give me an option to change that.
Okay. What about, it didn't give you an option to change that? See if you can do it now.
We can also put out a version of it. There's definitely on YouTube.
Yeah.
Can you hear it now?
Hold on one second. No. But okay, so share screen.
We can share the YouTube file. I'll find the YouTube version of it so people can hear it.
Okay, perfect. So listen, I want people to start asking questions. Okay, Carolyn McCaskey is so there's two chats. I'm learning as we go along with this platform that we're using, Hey Summit. You have the Hey Summit chat, and then you have the StreamYard chat, which is streaming within the thing. But
yeah,
the Hey Summit chat, Carolyn McCaskey says she's looking forward to the link to the AI. And so you can actually, this is what you can do. If you want to, you can paste the AI audit in the comments, not the private chat, but in the comments area, and people can then it's a hyperlink.
Not the AI audit you can do yourselves. You can just ask those questions for any brands.
Okay, can you put that slide up again just so that people can screenshot it?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. Hold on, let me get to that slide. And let me get to the shared screen. Just give me a second. Let's see. Okay, and now let me get back to the presentation.
Oh, okay. So what she meant was the AI press release. Okay.
Yes, I can send you that link. Absolutely, I'll do that. I'll send it to you right now, and you can put it out there.
Okay, perfect.
That's easy to do.
Yeah. If you could put that link, you can either put it in the comments or you can private chat at me, and I'll put it in the comments so that it's hyperlinked. Yeah. And I used Newsworthy myself. I wrote a press release for the summit, and put it out to so it goes out to ChatGPT and other places, and it drove signups for the summit.
So now I lost the chat. Oh, there it is. It just got white on me. Give me a second. Let me share this with you, and then you've got it. There we go. Okay, I just put it in the private chat so you can share it because I can't see the other chat.
Okay, hold on one second. I'm gonna share it in the other chat. I want you to tell me if you can see it. I just shared it in the main chat, in the comments chat. So.
Yeah. Well, I saw it pop up now. Yeah. There it is.
Yeah. Okay. So people can, so you can go and click on that in the chat, and you can hyperlink to it, and it'll open up in a different tab.
Correct. And then they can just use the code that I sent you earlier, the NW _ legends.
Okay, hold on one second. So I also got an email about the what do you call it?
But that link should get you there. But let me make sure.
PJ, we're getting you the code in just a minute.
Yeah, it's NW _ legends.
Okay, NW _ legends. And where would you put this?
There's a place to put it on the code on there.
Were you gonna if you could go to that or something, because I'm seeing the infinite thing. Okay.
Yeah. No.
So NW _ legends, and you would type that to the.
There's a place on the sign up to be able to put in a code.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so
yeah,
right. So you would go here, and then once you enter that, then you would put this code, right? NW.BioLegend.
Correct. Underscore BioLegends. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
And now I'll get you one free press release.
Yes. Okay. So you got it, PJ? Okay, perfecto. Okay. And then and so Caroline, PJ, you'll have that. All right, perfect. Any other questions?
And I encourage them to check out some of the press releases, like I said, the one like you did for the Strike Marketing Summit. That's a great example.
Yeah. I'll share that. I'll share. Let me see if I can actually.
Because a lot of people ask me why it's so different than other press release services as well. And so one of the things that David learned from, press release business, an SEO version 1 is, the traditional press release model is about sending out duplicate content essentially to everybody. And the way he's doing things with Newsworthy is fundamentally different. So he's using AI to change language, to change TLDRs. He's turning them into podcasts. Really some very interesting things.
Yeah, that was my press release. If you can click on it and see how it's structured.
You can also embed a YouTube video into the press release. If you're a local business, you can also put in your Google business profile into it. You can, add links into it. Like it's a very different platform than most press release services out there.
Yeah. Well, what I think is really cool too is that David McInnes was also the founder of PR Web, which, anybody who's been around the internet for a while, you'll remember PR Web. I used PR Web when I was, working at several other companies before. And so, so there's my release that I did.
Well, he built that niche of news marketing, right? You think about it, right? Here we are talking about that. He created the whole concept of basically putting out press releases to target your customers in Google News, right? And for SEO purposes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to share the press release. So first of all, I wanted to see if people can hear this. Okay, let me know if you can hear this. Hold on, it's not making me sound right now.
It just breaks the norm and is able to get attention better than normal. So if you're looking at somebody's timeline and you're saying, hey, like there's lots of things.
Okay. Technology. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's you can embed the video. There's the TLDR, which I think is really cool at the beginning.
Yeah. And that's built based on my concepts of persuasion architecture.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
If you weren't aware of that, but yeah.
So you built that into so Dave McInnes consulted with you and you helped him come up with this concept.
We've been working together for a lot of years. So I'm an advisor to Newsworthy as well. Yeah. Yeah. Heavy influence there.
Okay. Perfect. Right. And here's where I put all the speakers, the topics. Okay. And this goes out to who again? So it goes to AI. And
it hits all the LLMs. It hits, it'll hit obviously Google News. And then you get a whole clip and report of everywhere it goes. There are also other local sites that it hits too. It gets a pretty decent distribution. And then part of what he makes it special is every press release gets registered on the blockchain. So it links back to that original press release. And so that eliminates the duplicate content issue in a lot of ways.
Okay. Perfect. I did get some comments from some people that said that they could hear the video. So that's perfect. Okay.
Technology is amazing.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. It's one person's medicine is going to be another person's poison. So
this comes back to my presentation. We've got a misaligned story here because some people have a story that they've heard it and others couldn't hear it.
Yeah. Well, any other questions for Brian? Now, this is a chance for you all to ask. I called Brian in some of my email messages. a legend, which he is, but he's also a very approachable, regular guy legend, right? So ask away. One of the things that I wanted to ask about, you and Jeffrey, your brother, came up with concepts of category design, really even before the category pirates published their first book about it, Play Bigger, in 2016. I mean, you were doing this stuff back in 1999, 2000, 2001, et cetera. So like, how did you come about the concept yourselves?
Again, it comes back to, that phrase that we heard from Roy, right? He controls the industry, he controls the vocabulary, controls the industry. And we're like, the funny thing is, originally when we first started conversion rate optimization, it didn't start off that way. Originally, we talked about digital salespeople, but that didn't land as well. And we decided to focus in on using the term conversion rate and conversion rate optimization, because at least there was search volume for the term conversion rates.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
And then we built everything from there. And like I said, we published millions of words online, millions of articles before anybody else was talking about it. And so, by the time most people who came after us, they came after Call to Action was already a New York Times bestseller. I mean, there's a couple of just kind of, in that same time period, but most came after Call to Action.
Okay. Well, I got a comment in the other comment from Sonia Howell, and she said, tell Brian, congratulations to you and Jeffrey for your continued success. I knew you when. I knew you back when was glad to see you on the summit. AI is powerful as ever. So,
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So other thing that I wanted to ask you, and the floor's open, everybody. So please ask questions. Ask Brian everything you wanted to ask, but everything you wanted to know, but we're afraid to ask. I'm thinking about Woody Allen's version of.
We may come up with a viral genius moment here, so ask away.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, you all started in New York, but you moved to Austin. But even before you moved to Austin, you were already collaborating with an Austin legend, Roy Smith. Roy
Williams.
Roy Williams. Please call him Roy Smith. I don't know why. Roy Williams, who is known as the Wizard of Ads. And who
also created a mega category, who's been in the content marketing business for over 30 years. He started off with voicemail.
Yeah. So Roy Williams has acreage in southwest of Austin, kind of around the same neighborhood as the original barbecue place. What's the name?
Salt Lake. Yes, Salt Lake.
Right. So they have, he has a kind of like a ranch with rolling hills, but it's a nonprofit. So he has a castle that looks like, that was kind of modeled after the Don Quixote castle, right? A picture of Dulcinea and Don Quixote with his horse and his.
And he's got a free wedding chapel on there with over 1,000 weddings a year come and celebrate there for free. It's amazing venue. And then on the other half of that property is his marketing agency.
Yes, so he has a marketing agency over there, and what they do at the castle is they have marketing workshops, they do presentations, etc. What do you think? What's been the value of collaborating with Roy Williams?
I mean, when you're dealing with a legendary marketer who's probably created more millionaires out of his clients for years and years and years. There's so much wisdom that we've learned in the last, 25, 30 years with him that, it's priceless. Yeah.
I remember going over there and it's kind of a magical facility in and of itself. And you go in and it just feels magical.
It was actually built on like sacred Indian ground. Wow. It's built on a mountain called Wednesday Mountain. There's a whole story behind these mountains, and that's a whole other story we can get into a different time.
Yeah. But he created. By the way, Carolyn McCaskey says thank you so much. Brian, thank you so much, and thank you, Fernando, for having me. So
again, appreciate it so much.
So I think that Sonia and Carolyn have known you since the beginning. So that's fantastic. So
before I had gray hair.
What was that?
Before either of us had gray hair.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit about Roy Williams' own category that he created.
It's interesting because he created, and I think a good way to explain it is he looks at customers as two types. There's transactional customers and relational customers. And he created a category about writing advertising for relational customers. And what we're seeing more and more of is how valuable that trust and relationship is. Even in the AIs, it wants to get those trust signals, right? And so if you're not putting them out there, it's just really hard to compete in today's world. Like we saw with that other example, right? Proceed with caution. That is obviously a very transactional HVAC company, and the internet knows it, and they're calling them out. And the AI is not going to recommend them unless you're desperate and you want someone right now. They'll be available, but otherwise, they won't recommend them. That's the way things are changing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Carolyn McCaskill has a question. How important is creativity in marketing? Like, how can AI help or hinder a marketer's creativity?
I love what it can do because it can connect things for you that you may have not connected. And I tell the story, right? I think I swallowed an elephant. I wrote the first draft in 10 days, but it took me 5 months of editing to get it there. It didn't provide the spark. It didn't provide my stories. It didn't provide the seeds of my ideas that came from my beliefs, right? And my origin stories essentially in there. So I think it's very important. I think that the qualities today that really impact marketing more than anything is simplicity. Because when we barely can consume anything because we're all inundated. We're all feeling burnt out for so many reasons, not just the amount of marketing message, but just life feels heavier today than ever has beforehand. And so if you're not simple and impactful, it doesn't get across. And we talked about this, on one of the pre-interviews before the summit. We give this very simple example that Dr. Matt uses in his office, and he gets a chuckle, and everyone laughs about it. And other people, his clients tell other people about it. And it has its own virality because, again, it's simple. You remember it. It anchors on something, and I'm sure today, Fernando, you have a very high AQ today, don't you?
I have a very high AQ because both yesterday and today I've been sitting on my ass for 7 hours straight each day.
Yeah, right. And we're, as humans, not meant to do that. We're meant to move around. Our ancestors used to move 15, 20,000 steps a day, all throughout the day. And then we come home, get around the fire, and tell stories. And that's when we decompress. And instead, now our fire is the phone, and we get there and we keep stimulating our brains and our bodies and not doing what we need to do to be able to really be as creative as we should be and just get back into a balanced place.
Yeah.
Right. Get back into an aligned place.
So the AQ as opposed to IQ and EQ is the ask quotient. And that's a brandable chunk right there and then, right?
Yeah. And like I said, he'll listen to clients' stories and, based on what they do for their job, all of a sudden he'll hear that and you tell them, and then he'll come back in with a prescription pad, right? Telling them they need it, to get more movement in, or for different people, that they need a timeout because they're so overscheduled, overburdened.
Yeah, perfect. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Let me see. One other question that I had when you and Jeffrey were coming up with, we're writing the early stuff for the internet, even before MailChimp was around, you actually kind of coded your own email marketing platform, which I think is great. But back then when you were coming up with these terms, bounce rate, conversion rate optimization, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It seems like as though, and we had a panel yesterday, by the way, on category design with some legendary category designers, Kevin Maney and Mike Damphouse, Pablo Gonzalez, Chris Stanley. And they talked about, so Kevin Maney and Mike Damphouse talked about how category design is really kind of prompted by new developments, new trends, new things that happen, right? So they talk about COVID as something where it provides opportunities to design categories. Or
I don't think that's only right. In other words, nothing new happened for Dr. Matt to create his neuro-based chiropractors, because there's a lot of chiropractors who say that they're neuro-based,
right?
And there's a bunch of them that do the traditional cracking that also will say they're neuro-based. And
right.
Yes, every crack, look, every touch to your body, massage has a neuro effect on you. So let's just keep that in mind. But There's a difference between cracking on a spot that's hurting and targeting your brain and your nervous system to get back in balance. And so he's doing something very different. And because of how he's taken basically 3 different elements, he said that was an important piece to really target the nervous system. But he said, then I have to work on the extremities that are challenged by our nervous system, gets challenged by them all the time. So our feet, right, our constant pounding, they tell us how we're working around in the world, that proprioception. They need some care as well. And then lastly, in order to hold some of this, some of us have been cracked so much, I've been in accidents, that our ligaments are loose. And so we don't have an internal brace to keep our bodies in a safe place. And so by combining all of those, he was like, I can create a new category with this tricord method, okay? And again, by using different vocabulary than everybody else in his industry, he's now created a new category, and people are coming from all over the country looking for him because they're not getting it out of the traditional 2-day, symptom relief chiropractors.
Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. Thank you so much for that. I wanted to just remind everybody that if you want to, get that special offer from Newsworthy, you can go to this link. It's further up in the comments, so you can actually, click on it. And then once you get there, you can enter this code for the special offer.
So I have a question for you, Fernando.
Yeah.
At the end of this summit, what's going to be the title of your press release about these last 2 days?
I'm going to say, despite technological glitches, Strike Marketing Summit was a roaring success.
I like it.
Okay. And by the way, I put your logo there for the Rock Solid podcast, Round Rock. Everybody, listen to some of the fantastic interviews that Brian does in the Rock Solid podcast. Where is it available? Spotify, Apple Podcasts?
YouTube, everywhere. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. It's called the Rock Solid Round Rock podcast. How do they search it exactly?
Rock Solid Round Rock will show up. Yeah, easy enough. If they put Rock Solid in my name, it'll show up. What's cool about that process is, we launched this podcast because we wanted people in our community to be able to share better stories. And so my job as host is to ask them those interesting questions, to extract those really unique human stories, that have an impact on their business. And so it's a blast.
Yeah, perfect. Well, listen, thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Sorry about the technological glitches at the beginning. And we will, talk then. And everybody, these replays are all going to be available. So, don't sweat it if you miss something. And you can email me if you need anything. I'm going to take us off stage and put some music until our next speaker, Rachel Starr, comes on board. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.